We wouldn't be using an astral body in these projections. We're activating in the field the golden fleece frequencies, which will allow us to take an ectoplasmic imprint, which is that D8 trion field, ectron units, just like what's going to happen in Hitharo, where it makes a double, a replica. You can make a replica where your thought and your intention to do so will take a replica of your body, and you can stop it right there and say, okay, I'm going to go on a nice visit to Inner Earth. Maybe I'd rather have like black hair today instead of blonde, right? You can play with your replica if you want to. But the easiest thing to do first is just come as you are. You know, whatever you're wearing, don't dress formal, don't worry about it. But you learn to project. Now, there's going to be visualizations that go with this. The work is going to shift in a very unique way, and it's a way that I'm glad, because I always liked the guided meditations where you just get taken on journeys to pretty places and things. What I didn't know in the early days was every one of those that are out there on the market, somebody has created. They are very specific coordinates. The visuals that they're giving you are like moving symbols, like this that activate your shields. You're being directed to very specific places. Now, a lot of what's on the market out there as far as meditation tapes and pretty journeys are taking you to some very lovely places in Phantom Matrix and in black hole systems. What we're going to do is put out a set of tapes at some point, and they're coming soon. This is the beginning of that, where they're going to run something, a quick one tonight, just to get you there, and then you can play with that at home. But there are going to be, it's like the work is going to shift from just putting in codes into your shields to experiential journeying from this point on. So like when we do the May workshop, we'll have a bunch of that introduced there. So we're going into more, it's more fun, and as far as I feel anyway. It's a lot more fun to actually go on these journeys, and you can actually get lost where you forget you have your body here because you're so enthralled. Now, what happens when you go on these journeys? You go experience, let's say you wanted to go to the healing temple. Let's say you have your back is really hurting and it's causing you a problem, or you have a very specific ailment that's really upsetting you. Or you have a very specific issue or area in your life that you're just trying to fix, but you just can't seem to come to resolution with it, whatever it is. You can go to, this is a massive temple complex, and it has things that, some of the things look like you'd see them here. Like it might be structures from Earth at some period in time. Others are completely out of this world, huge selenite buildings that you can walk into. But there's all sorts of different purpose or task-oriented healing water setups. So you'd be taken there to whatever one would work with the frequencies that would help with a particular area you have, and you would know it. See, they'll guide you and say, okay, here's where that is. But they already know, the Iani know that you already have that information. You know where you need to go, and you know what frequencies you need. So they don't say, okay, well, now we're going to diagnose you, and you need to go over there. No, they don't do that. They just say, okay, that one's over here. You know what you need, and you know. It's weird. You get in there and you go, yeah, of course. Yeah, I forgot the map how to get there, but yeah, of course I know that's where I need to go. You go and you'll go in the waters or stand under the fountains, or there's a whole bunch of different kinds of experiential things with liquid light water that you can do here. When you come back, now your ectoplasmic imprint with a part of your consciousness is experiencing this, right? Which means you're making a D8 imprint of it. You're making an electron imprint with D8 electrons, which are ectrons. When you come back from the projection, you are bringing that back into your body. You are bringing it back into registers. If you had two bodies, and you're bringing them back in together. What that does is transmit that information and those frequencies directly from the DNA imprint that went on the journey right into your DNA template, right into your shields. So your body begins to have the healing that was given to you there. And it's extremely powerful when you start to play with these. So this is one of the things we have to look forward to as we build this body. Now, we'll get back to the body at the end when we open the codes, when we induce the codes. That will open the A11 temple of Zephardon. But what I'd like to do, and this is where we're spending, one more thing before I do this. Before I go into what's the drama doing now, what's up with the beast and wormwood and all those things that are part of this too, I just want to point this out. You know the funny word, the heliotasis line? That's here. All right, this is what you're opening. For you to bilocate, to go to these temples, this is the thing. Your ectoplasmic imprint is going to travel in its double Biveka Merkaba through to get into those temples, which means there's an energy field that's going to open here. Now it's interesting, a little bit in further, there's an energy field you don't want to touch, which is the top half of the phantom axis. This comes in, actually, it's hard to see it in the diagram, but it comes in at a 45-degree angle, like it would right into Kathara Center 6 over here. So it's entering, actually, I think that one enters through 9. Wait a minute. Yeah, I think it enters through 9. The other, 6 and 7 are these. It enters through 9, so it's actually coming in your head. All right, it's coming from this side of your head, running through, across your body this way, and over, down and through here, and back out. So it's a tube. And what you eventually learn how to do is, they're not teaching us how to steer Merkaba yet, but eventually, once you have that open, and you have the palms open, you can direct the shift, where this axis, you bring it in line with that, it all straightens out, and you end up somewhere else, because you activated Merkaba, went into flame body, and shifted your molecular structure. So this is the beginning, having this tube opening up. The heliotasis. That's the thing that sounds like halitosis to me. I think of bad breath and I can remember it, right? Heliotasis. This is good breath. So we have good breath and bad breath, you know? Yeah. But this is going to be activating as well when we work with the codes. You will set all of these in motion with the activations that you've done with the codes that you've received this weekend. Yes?
In the supposed Christ crucifixion, there were 5 wounds, which were obviously the 4 are the hands and the feet.
Mm-hmm.
The 5th one was caused supposedly by the spear loftiness, which we know as the spear of destiny in history.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a corresponding,
The spleen.
chakra that wound was actually
Right in here. It's in the spleen. Right there.
line run through that?
Mm-hmm. There's several things that run through that, but when you get into more, this is like core template level things, when you bring it up further, you get into the etheric nervous system and all of those. There's a direct interface between all of the smaller interface structures up and through here that connect with all these frequencies here, that links down in through here. The spleen helps to process out the any reversals or distortions and transmit the current into the rest of the body. So when you mess with the spleen, you're stopping the ability of the body to handle as much frequency and to transmute as much frequency. That's why one of the things that a lot of people experience, there's 2 things that are very common when you're activating to go through that aren't particularly pleasant. 3 things actually. 1 would be headaches. 2 would be tailbone aches or spine aches. Sometimes it's even in the neck, but more often it's in the tailbone. And another is spleen, where you get stabbing pains right under there. And it sometimes feel like you're being murdered, and you go all gray, and it feels like you're having a heart attack because it moves up here and goes down your arm and all those kind of things. This is because the spleen was damaged. That's the supposed Spear of Destiny wound. But the Spear of Destiny is much different. The story of it, see, what they've done with the Spear of Destiny story, and the Nazis were all into this, and there's a lot of people that have been into this, but the Spear of Destiny is much older than the Nazis. It's way early Atlantean stuff. They were into this. It's not so much that it did pierce the side of Christ, who wasn't crucified in the first place, right? It has, and we'll see in the maps in a little bit, or kind of like the maps of the beast. What they'd like to do, they would like to use their Spear of Destiny, the real Spear of Destiny, to pierce the Christos, which would be the gate number 1 in the Eka system, the Eka gate 1, because the Spear of Destiny, which is a purposely forced into reversal and turned upside down blue sword frequency, moves through gate 10 and comes into direct alignment as it's going up into parallel Weesadek black hole, comes into direct alignment with Eka gate number 1 in their main vertical axis. So what they want to do is not what they have done. They want to pierce the side of Christ, or the rib of Christ with it. So this the manufacture of these stories, we've taken them literal when they've been told like fairy tales. The Christ crucifixion. Yeah, we were crucified, all right. The inner Christ was crucified with all of the mutations that were done. But no, the man that was Jesus, that was, really here doing Emerald Covenant work and all that, he wasn't crucified, he ascended. He would have been a hypocrite if he didn't. After all the things he taught. That's why it's frustrating. Like I personally don't really care if I drop the body or take it. If I'm too tired, just whatever's easier, right? But I don't want to be a hypocrite, so I'll keep trying really hard to make sure, because I would love to be able to say, see, you can. But the problem is, last time I did that, I wanted to say, see, you can, but then I couldn't come back, so I had to come back all over again and try it again. If it came down to the Indigo team not being able to get out, I wouldn't go either. It's kind of like you go down with your ship. Some people do. I would. But anyway, we'll talk about the Spear of Destiny, and that's what we're going to get into in the sections to come. But I wanted in here for reference to give you like a quick overview of the anatomy of the beast, so we know what that is and where it goes. And we're going to take it into the sky maps and see what's happening with it. Again, this was our Cathar grid of our Particum universe. This is our axis. This is the phantom axis, the phantom matrix axis. And this is the Wiesadek axis, not the Drac one. That's the one that's on our side of the matrix, not on the parallel. This was just showing you how the Metatronic bonds through the 4 black hearts of Metatron and the, I believe, 12 eyes of Metatron, which are all implant systems on a universal level. They are on a universal level, and they thus manifest within the templates of all the smaller things that follow the templates of the universal Cathara. How they are forced into bonding to form this cube matrix. It's called the black cube matrix, and yes, it does have something to do with the big black cube that people go and hang out around at certain places that I'm not going to get into because I don't want to offend anyone. But, and it's like, it's not that we pick on any particular religion. We pick on all of them. We don't mean to. We're not trying to pick on them. What we're saying is each of them once had a holy purpose, and they had each tribe. There were 12 religions here. Each one of them had a CDD plate and was the keeper of one of the full spectrum of dimensional knowledge from tribe 1 up to tribe 12. So all of the religions were holy to begin with, but they've all been raped and they've all been twisted. So when we pick on people for hanging around black cubes, and we pick on other people for wearing the crucifix cross on their forehead on Sundays during Easter, and all sorts of other things, we're not trying to pick on. What we're trying to do, though, is show how what they're doing came from, where there was a truth to what they were doing, but they lost track of the truth because of the lies that were put in. Now, the black cube matrix is an artificially Metatronic bonded thing that's created by taking the grids of Phantom, the grids of ours, and the grids of the Wiesadek and forcing them together in a Metatronic bond, where you get this self-contained system that has a feeding tube, and as long as it sucks energy off a living system, it can sustain itself. But if that feeding tube is closed, it starts to self-consume, and eventually it will implode. It will compact smaller and smaller and smaller until it finally implodes it on itself and returns to space dust. So this is what they're trying to create with this. They're trying to take all of the frequencies of these gate systems, amalgamate them through this pattern to eventually create their own nice little new creation. They're trying to recreate the first creation under their own image, under their own intentions. And their intentions are fallen intentions. They have been ever since they fell. It is not a love-based system. It's a dominion-based system. It's a hierarchy. Did you ever hear the concept of exteriorization? How do they call it? It's basically outpicturing of the hierarchy, externalization of the hierarchy. That's it. That's a little Anunnaki term that they like to throw around. Yeah. Well, the hierarchy they're talking about are their big guys up in their frequencies down here. Right? I mean, look at the reversed, right? Look where our number 1 is, right? Their number 11 is up here. They don't have 12. They only have 11. They rely on the Metatronic seed atom up there, the eye of Metatron, to feed the Metatronic seed atom. That was a device that our guys put in to assist the Phantom Matrix, so they had a way to evolve out. We covered this in Dance for Freedom. And it was literally taken over by the fall of the Metatron entity collective that had been put in charge of it. And that's what started this whole menagerie called the Beast. The ability to go anti-Christos existed as soon as the first creation existed. It was a potentiality that was allowed, that if you could take the opposite expression of divine will if you wanted to, within a certain limitation, but if you went past that limitation, the Templar itself would, through action and consequence, cause your seed atom to cut itself off, your Merkaba to shut down, go in reverse, where you became a closed system unto yourself until you went back as space dust. That is a natural process. It's not the desired process. It's not a process God wanted to be there, but it was the way to balance free will, that you can't let free will totally annihilate the first creation, but you can't take away free will and say you can't express the opposite of God's intention, because then you wouldn't have a free will matrix. So this was a compromise God made with itself, really, to be able to allow a free will matrix to live. Now, this mess is not natural. All right. This forced metatronic bond is those who found out that, yes, it was true what they said about consequence and action. And when you push it too far, yeah, guess what? Your seed atoms do implode, don't they? Uh-oh. Right? They found themselves in black hole status. They had a choice to evolve in that destiny with grace. Because you can. Even if you knew you were going to fall into a black hole, would that give you, in your own mind, an excuse to go treating other people lousy? To hurt other people? To damage other things? Would you blame someone else? This is what they did, and this is why they're not at peace. If I was going to fall into a black hole and go back to space dust, I would probably be peaceful, a little bit sad, because all the joyful opportunities that I know I wouldn't be able to experience on the way up the other way. But I would be safe in the knowing that at least I know there is nowhere to go outside of Source. I'm going home another way, and I just won't remember. And it's sad, but you can embody, and they could if they wanted to, embody or at least touch a bit of the cognition that you can do this with grace. If you've fallen to the point where you can't fix the template, you can ashes to ashes, dust to dust, peacefully with dignity and respect. You don't have to have it as a blasphemous, horrid thing that's trying to destroy the original creation because you made some bad choices and got yourself in trouble. And that's precisely what these guys from the Weiser systems are doing. And a lot of the guys from the Phantom system were doing it too. That's why they ended up hooked up with the Weiser races. What this is taking a knowledge, a high knowledge of Templar mechanics on the universal level. They don't have access to the cosmic level information. They can't access past the 11.5 in Arveka. So they can't even get the God World maps. They can get them now. They can order them off the product list if they really want them. I'm sure they have. Yeah, I remember. I won't mention the name, but I remember when there's a biggie, a big guy with a big movement out there. And it's not the one you're probably thinking. Yeah, but they ordered. We're ordering product and that kind of stuff. Check us out. Oh, what's the enemy doing? We don't look at them as enemies, but I think they look at us as enemies. But anyway, the Metatronic bond was not something that God Source created, not even as part of the balancing system. It was an attempt by the fallen races to make somebody else pay for the decision they made and to make sure. See, they blame God. Well, you set it in motion in the first place. Well, we told you what the rules were, and you broke them. Too bad. It's still your fault. This is like the attitude they have. So they've literally twisted Templar mechanics and created. They came very near by using similar type of mechanics, by using the same type of things that creation was set in motion with, but changing the relationships between energy. They've created a finite system that is self-sustaining as long as it sucks energy from something else. So anyway, this is not the natural configuration. This is the building of the beast, and it happened in stages. This isn't a short-term plan. This isn't somebody had a really bad set of incarnations for 300 years and made this really nasty machine. This started 150 billion years ago, 570 million years ago. This part of it was created during what was called the Gaian-Orion Wars. I can't read it up there. This section here was created 550 million years ago with the Terran-Syrian Wars. That's when we had the fall of Terra. Down here, this area, and this corresponds to these areas, right? Down here, this area was captured during the Electric Wars 5.5 million years ago. The Electric Wars, Earth was directly involved in. That's what ended the first seeding of the angelic human race on this planet. Now, down here is what they're trying to finish. We had another piece that was integrated here during what was called the Great Galactic War 4.5 million years ago. And this is the last piece. Now, if they can generate that piece, they have the power to build a D13 reverse. They already are running D13 reverse base 8 current. They can amplify it to a base 11 if they can integrate this piece. If they integrate it into if they amplify that reverse D13 current to a base 11, they can pierce the Eka in our system, which is what they want to do because they want to pull the whole ecosystem down. Now, it's not going to happen that way. We told them it wouldn't. They were warned for all this time that, guys, even if you get to the point where you're at the bottom and there's only one more piece to go, do you really think the laws of nature are going to change just for you? They're not. There's still consequence to action. And that's what's happening right now. This is why the separation is occurring. This is why Hithara is early, because this whole thing has been set in motion. These are the 7 heads of the beast. They create the flower of artificial life. That's what it is. It's also the configuration through which artificial light fields are created, self-contained, polarized artificial light fields. This would have one of those phase-locked Merkabas spinning around it. And if you take 2 or 3 phase-locked Merkabas, you can create a set of spirals, one that spirals one way and one that spirals the other, that have the ability to feed energy off other systems. And that's what they're creating. So they have several levels of phase-locked ones that both spirals spin in the same direction, and then it creates an external Merkaba field that doesn't have a radial body around it. The field is on the outside, and that is their sucking machine, their energy draining machine. So this is the technology that they're using, and this is what they're teaching when you learn certain programs of ascension information. So that's the beast mechanism. There's more to the beast in the sense of what it does, what it's connected to. A part of the beast that we're concerned with now has to do with something much more close to home. This was introduced when we were in the Hawaii workshop, and that seemed like a million years ago from this point. Was that 2001, I think? Might as well have been 5 million negative one. Okay. Yeah, all right. What this diagram basically shows you is the relationship between the sun and the 12 planets that are supposed to be orbiting around it. You can have 1 million planets orbiting around a sun, but they would normally go in increments of 12, or at least 6, but that would mean they were attached to the Ark of the Covenant half-step program. Now, you look out in our galaxies now, and it's all over the place. There's all sorts of different numbers of things floating around everywhere. It's a mess in our universal system right now. It's like as scientists try to look at what's there, right, and they say, this is the way it is. This is the laws that apply here. No, this is the mutation, and you're never going to figure that out if you don't know that there's a structure behind that where you can see the difference, and that's what's happening with science here. They look at atoms and they see, they work a certain way. Electrons are supposed to spin this way. Positrons spin the same way. Right there, if you know template mechanics, you go, wait a minute. You have electrons, negative charge. Okay. They belong in the particle universe. In the particle universe, they also have positrons, which are antiparticle electrons that have the opposite charge. We're doing all right. And the same spin direction. Why do they have the same spin direction? They should be spinning in the opposite direction. And if they did, they wouldn't appear here. They'd appear over there in the parallel universe. So there's all of these twists that are going on. Yeah, it's like it's bad enough that we pick on religions, but now we're actually saying, those positrons you found in there, they don't belong there in the first place. We're even picking on science. So this is how a lot of people look at it. They look at us as very confrontational because it's like, is nothing sacred in your world? So nothing is beyond questioning. But everything is sacred. Even if it's not accurate, it's still sacred. So anyway, this graph shows you the basic relationships that we're supposed to have between the planets and a sun. It also goes in to show you, which I won't go into heavy detail because we've done this before, quite a bit before. You can read the pieces and it fills in the blanks for you. It shows how our moon, a thing called wormwood, which is it's a piece of a planet that used to be our 5th planet, Maldak, that was taken and forced into an artificial orbit with what used to be our 12th planet, Nibiru. And Nibiru then became our 11th planet after they blew Chiron out of the sky, and half of it's floating around out by Uranus right now, and the other half fell. There's a whole apparatus. This beast machine is a nasty one. This thing moves planets. It can force a bond between the templates of a piece of one planet and a piece of another. Like our moon, for instance. Oh boy, that's a nice one. That has about 5 different pieces of things forcefully amalgamated into it. It has a part of its core that's hollow, and it's used for certain purposes of anchoring frequency. Particularly, we have our moon here, we have wormwood here, we have Earth here, and Nibiru here. This energy line that runs through our sun, this is our solar gate, it connects Nibiru and wormwood. It helps to hold that orbit together. There's a few other things that hold that orbit together. Nibiru used to be part of our natural spiral. It was the 12th planet out. And it was literally by using photosonic and photoradionic pulse technology, which they are using on this planet now. Think trade towers going down, okay? That was just a tiny little pulse technology. It takes bigger ones to move planets and shatter them to pieces and move them from one universe to another and stick them in black holes. But they did what they're trying to do to Earth now, they had done to Nibiru twice. We brought it back out twice. It fell to Phantom, but it didn't go all the way into the Wissadek systems. But this was put online finally and effectively in 25,500 BC, where they created this localized expression of the beast. This all plugs into the Metatronic grids of the other, like the universal level beast apparatus. But on our personal level, with our Earth here, this whole apparatus runs through Universal Stargate 4, which is our sun. It connects to Universal Stargate 3, our Earth, through a photosonic beam, or photosonic beam that comes through the moon and then goes into Earth. Another one gets transmitted through Wormwood and down to Earth, and then there's a beam that holds Wormwood and Nibiru together. And the whole thing is spinning. And what it creates is this really bizarre elliptical orbit that comes in at a diagonal, and it runs between here and Phantom. It comes like this. The Wormwood thing, when Wormwood comes in, Nibiru goes out. When Wormwood comes into our system, Wormwood goes into Phantom, and vice versa. So it became like a police satellite that they used the two to patrol this system. The Anunnaki created this little piece of lovely Templar mechanics, and then they later plugged it in to the Wissadek groups when they made I believe that took place during the, what do they call it, the Archangel Michael Lucifer coalition thing, where all of a sudden Archangel Michael and Lucifer weren't fighting. Yes, the conclave of Archangel Michael and Lucifer, where they were going to mend their differences. Yes, they mended their differences, and the Lucifer Collective, which is the Toth Anunnaki groups that created this thing, they said, all right, you can use our beast, but we got, they get some stuff out of the thing too. They agreed to allow the fall all the way, not just to Phantom, but all the way to Wissadek. So they turned over use of this part of the mechanics to the beast machine, to be plugged directly into the beast machine. This is what brings it a little local, where it makes it a little bit of a problem, especially when you're going through Hitharo and they're throwing fire swords and spears of destinies around, because the activations we're going to go through are going to expedite this natural cycle of Wormwood coming up. It was going to come up anyway, but it's coming up faster now than it was. Now, Wormwood, let's see, somewhere I have here's this. Nibiru and Wormwood pass into density 1, coming in behind the sun and passing up between Mars and Jupiter, the old Maldak orbit, where our planet 5 used to be. That used to be Wormwood. That's a piece of it. All right. Now, they do this every 33,657.8 years. They remain visible for 28 years. Like whenever one comes up, they're not visible at the same time. You'll see one. And they think it's the same body historically. Like even the Sumerians were recording this. Nobody figured out yet, and nobody was telling on the other side, that there were two bodies. That's how you kept this artificial orbit in motion, by balancing the electromagnetics through a sun, a natural sun, a gate system, to create literally an artificial axis that could rotate, which of course implies there's an artificial Merkaba field that's sustaining it. This axis comes up this way and rotates. See, this could have been drawn this way just as easily. It's just really where you put the planets, if you're going to draw them, because they move around the sun, right? Where you put the planets kind of determines where you put the axis to show that it's coming up by Jupiter. In the other diagrams, we have it coming this way, which is even more accurate because it has the Phantom axis, where we got more into the specific axis the Phantom was coming on. But this thing rotates, so it really doesn't matter. Both diagrams are still coherent with each other. I wanted to explain that one to you, though, in case you say, well, you'll see Phantom axis and some of the others coming through this way, and it looks like this is a Wissadek orbit. It isn't, because this is Wissadek axis. It passes through that and comes back over here, but it's connected to the Phantom grids, which we'll see in a little while. So what this also does is it shifts the natural Cathara should run like this. It tilts it at an angle. This is the Wissadek system. We have another one tilted at the same angle. It's 22.5 degree angle, going this way instead of being straight up and down, which it's literally creating a set of Cathara grid templates. It's building a universe on a twisted template on purpose. That's what they've done with the beast mechanism. Now, next one, please. Thank you. We'll get there. Let's put it this way, in a nutshell. I'm very glad we don't live in Phantom right now. Okay, what's the next one? Is that number 3? Yeah, good. Okay. This jumble of mess, it looks like a cancer cell. You know how they show you how cancer cells go and they grow and they make these horrid blobs of things that don't look like they don't look like something natural would create them. They look like a disease. Well, here's a disease of Stargate clusters that don't belong together. This is part of this beast apparatus. This alignment is due to the beast implants, the Metatronic implants all through this universal system. We have our natural Stargate alignment here, our universal Stargate alignment. The Echo gates are up there, running there. This is our primal light field. That would be the parallel density field over there in the gate systems. And what we have here are 2 other interfacing ones. One here, one here. This axis is a Stargate set that is called Phantom Matrix, and that was the part that fell from our matrix in 250 billion years ago during the Lyran Elohim Wars, and it was allowed to be there to try to help rehab them before they went into complete fall. They weren't in complete monadic reversal, so they still had hope. This other axis that comes through this way is the WISA black hole axis, and they interface up here through the 6 gate cluster. That is the sign of the beast, because you have what allows these currents to form is the force Metatronic bond between Stargate 6 in Phantom, Stargate 6 in WISA and Stargate 6 here. Stargate 6 is right as the one half of our Azure, right by our Azure point where our seed atom is, our universal seed atom is. So what they've done is they've Metatronically bonded a part of their template and its coding, or its reverse coding, into the seed atom in our universal template, which means everything born into this universe takes on that pattern and gets Metatronic just by coming in here. That's why it was a risk for Guardian races to come in, because they had to take on the disease before they could even get in to try to cure it. And that's what we've done, and that's why we're in the position we are right now. So what happens through the 666 gate connection is this is the blue sword we've talked about, the flaming blue sword of Archangel Michael, D13 reversed base 8 current that is formed through combining the, I believe it's the D7 current from the WISA deck matrix, the D6 current from the Phantom matrix, and it makes a D13 current, but they're both running reverse, so it makes a D13 reverse. What they're trying to do is suck in the rest of the current from this matrix to amplify their blue sword so they can make it pierce up here and take over the ecosystems as well and pull the whole thing down into the black hole system, because it would give them lots of years of food to feed on. Because if they don't continue to feed their system from an outside source, because they can't connect to the primal life fields anymore naturally, they have to force energy, pull it, steal it from other systems. Here's our galactic Cathara. Here's us. This is Earth. We are Universal Stargate 3, and we are Galactic Stargate 3. So it's an important spot as far as galactic Templar mechanics, especially if you're trying to rip this out of here. You can grab it from the bottom and twist hard enough, you can do it. And that's precisely what they're trying to do. What the intention of the WISA Drax is to use the blue sword current, activate it in the fields. This is the blue fire sword initiation. All right, that's what is coming in May. When we do our Hitharo, when we're getting the infusions of frequency at dawn that morning of the May 27th, this is going to be hitting at the same time. There's also another one I'll show you in a minute that's going to be hitting at the same time. Well, this flaming blue sword, it comes down here, but it also comes up here. So you get 2 swords, one going this way, one going that way. What it's intended to do is to pull the Phantom axis and our axis together, reverse them where they end up in this axis, and just pull the whole thing down into the black hole system, literally ripping us off at D11.5, cutting our connection there at D11.5. And it's an amazingly complex, quite diabolical, but ingenious technology. But it still goes to show you, no matter how smart you are, if you don't have heart, the universe is still going to balance things out. And eventually, the good guys do win, even if they don't do anything. Because the system will set itself and rebalance itself. That's what the Hitharo starts in this system. This says the Wisadek anti-Christic blue fire sword initiation will happen at dawn, begins at dawn on May 27, 2003, Hitharo peak. When the frequencies are coming in to split the seed atom from Hitharo, they are at the same time coming in from the Metatronic blue sword currents through the 666, through the Azure. They enter the Azure point in our universal crystal seed atom through that 666 gate configuration. That's why it's always been the sign of the beast. There are several signs of the beast. The crucifix is one of them. And there's a lot of Christians out there that if they really got this, they would be absolutely amazed. Oh my God, I've been having those things hanging on my wall since I was a kid. I used to be comforted by it because I thought it was Jesus's. You know, I mean, it's heartbreaking when you see how the kindness and the emotions of humans have been played on here. It's really despicable what's been done. They chuckle about how stupid we are now that we're mutated. We used to be his hotshot guardians. Well, look at us now. They get us to hang ourselves all the time. We're doing stuff that's harming ourselves and playing right into their hands so they can consume us, and we don't even realize we're doing it. And they get really upset when you have like big mouths like me. They come out and say, "Excuse me, that's not nice." There's a line from a song. Whose was it? Phil Collins, I think. It was "In the Air Tonight" was the song. It says, "Well, I was there and I saw what you did. Saw it with my own two eyes. You can wipe off that grin. I know where you've been. It's all been a pack of lies." Right? That song really goes to them from me and a lot of others. And then there's the rest of it, the chorus. "I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh, Lord." Anyway, you get the idea. All right, it's coming in the air, all right. Yeah, and I'm very glad. I really am. And it's not out of malice or anger or judgment at all. It's just we're all so darn tired on both sides, all sides. Get it the heck over with already. You know, let us all like go off stage, say, "Okay, drama done," you know, and start over. Let's go get another job in a different theater and, you know, do a different play. And I think both sides feel that way, so it's a common sentiment, and it's expressed out of love. You know, and I don't pick on them half as much as they like to pick on me. So anyway, this was the beginning of the problem, the flaming blue sword. Now, there's more. What the flame... Coffee is time when? It's 5 minutes after time? Okay. Okay. I'll do this one really quick because the next will be the Wisadek's contribution to this lovely menagerie. Okay? Okay, they're telling me I'm 5 minutes over your coffee time, so I have to go quick on this. This mess, and I apologize, this has scribbles all over it, because these graphs weren't finished. These are the graphs that I was going to have all nice and tidy for this workshop when they gave me the whole series of the Merkaba ones, and I didn't have time to finish these. These have been floating around with different information put on them in different levels, like as information's being released. But there's enough there where you can get an idea. At least visually you can see some relationships of things, even if you can't read the small print. What? Yeah, he said it's lacking in detail. What? What is basically right? It has so much detail. If it had much more, it'd look like a black dot on the paper. You know, it'd all like, you know, absorb into itself. What this is basically showing you is here's the phantom axis. Again, it's hard to do it. I'm getting twisted here because that twist thing is straight on here, but it's not. I have to get our gates. Yeah, there, where our gates look like they're straight. Okay, this is our Stargate system. This is our galactic one. This axis here is the phantom one, and then that other one that comes up this way is the Wisadek one. This shows you where Wormwood fits into the picture. If you remember the other diagram that showed the more local one with the sun, with the sun and the moon, and Wormwood and Nibiru and Earth, how they all link together, and they made that orbit. And the orbit is one, a Wormwood will come up, and it'll start way down here. We're down in like our what's called our 0 point lock, and it'll come up through our universal Stargate 1, which is Trapezium Orion. So that doesn't even, you know, it doesn't even pop in this system. It first starts to show up in the Orion system, and it would, whatever body it is, be it Nibiru cycle or Wormwood cycle, it would normally come up through here and pass out of our system up here. And then it does this loopy thing, passes back down into phantom, and it would come back down in this way. You wouldn't see this line. It wouldn't carry this line in this side. It would carry that line of the orbit in phantom. So it would normally just come up here and go out. Now, it usually causes a bit of ruffles as it goes by. Pole shift is a common one. When it's a large body, you know, magnetics and gravity and things, when you have a large body whizzing by your planet out of nowhere that, you know, pops up through a dimensional lock you didn't know you had, and it's moving very quickly like a comet, it usually doesn't just go by and leave a breeze. It usually creates a decent amount of mess. Now, there have been things that they can slow the orbit of this down, because this is a manually created machine. This is a machine. Can you imagine making a machine that cycled planets around? Geez, people are playing with atoms here, right? They're playing with planets as atoms up there. You know? Well, what has been done, the normal orbit, if you could call it normal, the way it was originally created by the Tothenki Palladian Nibiruan crew who invented this ingenious machine. They originally created it as a patrol station, but when they made the deals with the Archangel Michael Matrix, the WISA-DEX, they agreed to plug it in to interface systems that they have. Remember, they have their axis going this way. That they did a whole bunch of mess over here. They took Nibiru and they made it fall into phantom. There used to be our 11th planet. Our 10th planet was like Pluto. Our 11th planet was originally something called Charon, and 12 was Nibiru. Well, they wiped out Charon, took part of it down in the WISA-DEX matrix, where it's called Clarion, and part of it's floating around up here right now, and the other part of it became one of the moons of Pluto. Then the black hole that was left here, which was a partial black hole in 11 spot, they pushed Nibiru gate 12 up, which held galactic gate 12 up into 11, and from there they started to make connect the things that would allow this particular orbit to take place. And it goes like this. It orbits like they show the picture of an atom, where you see those like around here. It'll go here and then here and then here, and when it comes in to this alignment, that's when we have the thing coming up into our system, and it's timed. It's set to mess with our own cosmic clock, which is the natural pulsation of how fast the Merkabah spirals run on the galactic and universal level, so we can stay in synchronization. We have time that moves in a specific way. Well, they interfaced with our time cycle, and they have their own pulse coming through. They're running a base 8, base 10 twisted time pulse through our natural time pulse. The big problem with Nibiru is, however, Nibiru and Wormwood, is that Nibiru is not coming up right now. That's doing its phantom cycle. What is coming up is, some people call it Planet X. They call Nibiru Planet X. They don't know what they're calling it. It's something that floats around out there that they heard about and they think they saw. But what it really is Wormwood that they're seeing. It is the same Wormwood that was mentioned in the Bible, and it is going to come up. But what the beast, when you fully activate that whole Metatronic mess, what the beast does is it sets in motion some really strange triangulations of photosonic pulsing that run through the 666 gate connection, down through our gate 6 on the galactic level, which is Jupiter, and they transmit currents that when Wormwood would be coming up into our system in its natural orbit, it hits it with current and reverses it. So instead of coming up this way and going out that way, right here it gets hit with the Jupiter pulse, throws it in reverse spin. It goes meow and goes right between Earth and the Sun. It doesn't usually do that. It goes behind the Sun, so it doesn't cause as much of a mess when it comes by. You take something that large and throw it that fast between Earth and the Sun, you'll be lucky if either of them stay in orbit. And that's just the idea they have in mind, because what they want to do is create this torque, a torque system, a pull of energy that would use the Wormwood body, come up, reverse it here, force it into this. It'll come back here, make a loop, and go back out right on the WISA-DEX axis. And what that would do would rip our gate system here, pull this and phantom right into the WISA-DEX alignment, and right down into the black hole alignment. So that's what they're trying to do. This is one major machine. Now, this is the WISA-DEX design. When we get back from coffee break, because I know they get picky, and I guess we were late for lunch yesterday or something, they weren't too happy about it, the hotel people. So I will try to stay, I will be quiet now. When we come back, we will see what the Spear of Destiny looks like. Okay? So have a good coffee break. I'd just like to add one thing to that. Because there are so many of you guys at this point, I would like to thank all the musical people who have been doing a lovely job with the songs and writing songs with the songs in them. There's about 5 people in the audience right now that have done different, workings of some of the songs, and they're really beautiful and very inspirational. I just want you guys to know that you're recognized and appreciated too. I'm a musician at heart. I played guitar since I was very small, and I always heard things on piano, but I never learned how to play in this lifetime, so it was frustrating. I had to put it on an acoustic guitar. But I have a special, personal feeling for the music, and it's always been the most important part of all of it for me, because when you sing the songs and when you feel the music of the songs move through you, it's stronger than any linear language can give you, and it's even more powerful than any visual can give you. And I would just like to acknowledge the people. There's too many of you to go naming everybody, and I know there's several other people that are working on things that we haven't even heard yet, but I just want to thank all of you, and the ones that we've heard, they're doing lovely jobs. Some are in Canada, some are in the United States. I mean, they're just coming from all over the place. Some are from Ireland. I just want to thank you guys, too, that are doing the musical accompaniment to all the rest. It amazes me to watch how this little old me person that used to talk to people that nobody else could see, how just in being in my truth, in my life, and putting it down on paper, so hopefully it could move somebody else. Because I know the teachings, as they were progressively revealed to me from the time I was small, and progressively more so as I get older, they saved my life. They saved the quality of my life, and they saved my physical life as well. And my spiritual life, well, that goes without saying. They returned it. So it was because of the meaning that the teachings themselves have for me that I had the courage to go out and speak about them. But I look, and it's been in 1999 we started to speak, and it's 2003 now, and there's 17 different countries represented here. It amazes me, and I would just like to thank all of you for confirming what the Guardians had told me when we first started. They said, they're waiting for you. There are a bunch of people out there that are waiting for this information. And I was saying, are you kidding? I'm not even going to find a publisher. Who's going to publish this stuff? Right? Well, a publisher manifested himself out of nowhere, and that worked. And you guys have manifested yourselves too. So I just want to thank all of you and all of the others who aren't here that are other places. It just amazes me. And I would like you to look around and to recognize that too, the support that is there. There is a huge indigo population on this planet that's just coming into awakening. And once you start to wake up and you really feel the frequencies of freedom and direct connection to Source, you can't go back to any of the other nonsense, because it's meaningless. It doesn't give you that, yeah, I feel Source with me, in me, that kind of thing. So when you feel alone, just realize you might be alone in your immediate hologram right now, but there's a world out there, and this is a tiny world. There are infinite worlds that are built on people that function on these teachings. Their civilizations are built on it. So we're not alone, and I just want you to know that, and hopefully take some comfort in that like I did, because it's been a comfort to me and an amazement to me just to watch it, to see how many faces. It used to be that I could remember everybody's name and their face together. Then it went, oh dear, there's too many people where the faces always stick, but there was becoming a problem with names and faces going together at that point. We got to the point where the names are just gone. They just don't even stick because there's so many people. And it's that I care about every one of you, and I always will. And the Guardians are like that too. But there's so many of you. The power of the Indigo Collective is just awesome. And it's an honor to be here with you with that. And I just wanted to say that. Now, back to the program. There's like a message from your sponsor. Interrupt this broadcast for a message from your sponsor. That was a commercial break. I'm going to take my jacket off here, and we'll get back to what lovely apparatus did the Wisadrax contribute to this beastly mechanism. All right. And it's because of this particular aspect of the beast anatomy that we went from a level 3 evac to a level 6 evac. The frequencies of the blue sword by itself were one thing. They caused enough problems all by themselves. It was still manageable, but the consequences were still going to be pretty severe in certain ways. With the activation of what you're going to see now, it has almost doubled the power of what the blue sword will carry, but it's not going to be blue anymore. Right? They're trying to make an emerald sword and turn it upside down into the spirit destiny. Yeah, you put gold and blue together and you get green, right? It's not our green, but it's theirs. So the apparatus that the draconian, well, not draconian, they are draconian based. The Wisadrax are Omicron draconian races from our phantom matrix that hybridized with the Wisadek beetle people. All right, the Wisadex are beetle people that were from a completely different Akasha corridor. They're not even from our Akasha at all. And they hybridized with certain races in our phantom matrix. And that's where we ended up with Wisadrax and Wisadex. The Wisa implies the beetle people connection, which implies a Nephilim connection, just so you know. I mean, there's so many different, we've identified a lot of the different groups, and they're just a tiny bit of tip of the iceberg. So it's hard to, who's who, what's a Drac, what's an Anunnaki, what's a Wisa, what's a what at this point, It's from a black hole, that's enough. That's all I need to know. I'm going the other way, thank you. But anyway, what the Wisadrax are, they're kind of like the big Dracs, just like the Wisadex are the big Anunnaki, except Wisadex have some Dracs that joined them. They're from the Dracs from this side that fell in this side of the Wisa black hole system. And the whole battle that's beginning to unfold itself on our planet isn't between Emerald Covenant races and either of them. It's between the two of them. This isn't even our fight. This is their fight. And we're stuck in the middle, and we really annoy them because we keep constantly get in the way by trying to heal stuff or, they'd love to, wipe us off the planet so they could, really go at each other without interference. But what the contribution to this beastly apparatus that the Wisadrax had made. Now remember, we left off with the Nibiru and Wormwood, where Wormwood comes up. It's supposed to come up on this axis into the phantom, but the Wisadrax blast it with this triangulation of photosonic frequency that comes through Jupiter, and they knock it into a spin, so as it's coming into our system, it reverses, goes between Earth and the Sun, and literally rips the core out of our Stargate system, causes the whole Cathara grid to spin on its axis, and pulls it into that alignment, and it takes Phantom with it. So this is their idea of a great way to have a big dinner for about 2 billion years, where they could have a lot of energy to feed off of if they could rip this whole thing down. It would also allow them, because our Gate 11, way up there, up here, connects directly. Gate 11 in our Universal Vecca is Lyra Avion, all right, which I believe is in our star charts, it's called Sheliak. I think that's how it's pronounced, but it's an identified star. It connects directly into Eka Gate 3, which is the Agartha temple. So if they can rip it, they're trying to rip the matrix down from 11.5, where the Eye of Metatron lens is located, that means they would take that part of the Eka with them. And if they can get that far into the Eka, they can infiltrate, further and progressively and take the whole thing down. That's what their objective is. Now, the Wisadrax don't like that very much, because part of what's supposed to get sucked in are them. It's not just our phantom matrix that would get pulled into Wisadek black hole. It's not just our living matrix, not just our Eka, but it would also be the parallel Wisadek black hole. And they don't get along with each other. The Wisadrax and the Wisadex do not like each other any more than the Anunnaki and the Omicron liked each other when this all started between them in Lyra 250 billion years ago. So, the Wisadex have created this little monster and plugged it into the whole Metatronic Beast implant system. What the other guys did in retaliation, now these guys did it first, the Wisadex did it first. The Wisadrax have progressively, ever since Lyra, before they even became Wisad, the draconian races act out of response or reaction. It was the fallen Anu races, the fallen Anu Elohim, that were the aggressors. They were the ones that tried to destroy the others first, and the others used the same tactics to try to, for self-defense, but became just as bad as the ones that were trying to kill them. So this was created in response to the Wisadex creation of the Blue Sword. This is the Spear of Destiny. Now, the Spear of Destiny, if you remember, our Cathara grid is supposed to run, 11, 10, 10, 9, 10, 9, 8, going down this way. What the Spear of Destiny would do is through here, Gate 10. Now, if you look at the interface maps, parallel Gate 10 and our Gate 10 are in the same place, and they are on the direct diagonal of the inner Earth axis, the Eka axis. Now, in 208,216 BC, the Wisadex Drax tried to take over the number one Stargate in the universal Eka system. That Stargate is called Brennaway. And there was a part of Atlantis here that was named after it as well. In 208,000 to 16 BC, there was the fall of Brennaway drama that it was touched on in the Voyagers books. It was occurring in Atlantis down here, but it was also occurring simultaneously up there, where this gate was used by the Wisadraks to infiltrate part of Gate 1, Brennaway, in the Eka, and they actually ripped part of the gate apart. They've got about 2/3 of this gate. And they pulled it out of alignment and connected it artificially through a Metatronic bond into the Gate 10 systems. Now, this place, they named it Tellus. So when you hear of people saying, oh, they're from Tellus, there's a lot of those guys running around. They tell you they're like 5,000 years old and that they're, just up visiting from Tellus, which is inner Earth. Tellus is not inner Earth. This is inner Earth. Tellus is the piece of inner Earth that they ripped apart and made their own. It was because of that our system went on a base 10 pulse instead of a natural base 12 code pulse. That's why we couldn't run D12 frequency here until the 2000, until we finally got the grids restored enough to do it. So what they're trying to do, the Wisadraks, in their last hurrah, they still have this base as a stronghold. There was a choice that came up with the Guardians when they knew, because the Wisadeks had activated the Blue Sword and the Beast, and it was going down. It was going to have a Hitharo, but not a full double Akasha Ea level one. And that meant that the Wisadraks were going to get their black hole pulled in with, into the Wisadek black hole. And we were going to lose Phantom and part of our grids and the whole bit. We're going to go down. We're still going to lose part of our grids here. Phantom is still going to go down. But the Wisadraks decided they would rather take the chance of self-destruction and at least have their honor than let the others take them and rip them apart piece by piece, because there's a hatred that runs between these races. It's a hatred that there is no solution for at this point. It's for 250 billion years we're trying to resolve that hatred between just the Omicron Draconians and the fallen Anu Elohim, and that didn't work. These guys have been at it even longer. The Wisa races fell. Part of their races fell before we even had this problem in our time matrix. In fact, our time matrix was seeded with the hope of solving some of the problems that had happened in the matrix that the Wisa black holes are from. They weren't black hole status yet, but they had certain problems that were going in that direction. And by the interaction of our time matrix, and it did really well from 950 billion years ago to 250 billion years ago, things were progressing rather nicely. But then the Lyran Wars broke out and all the craziness started. Then the hybridization between the two matrices started, and both of them fell. The Wisa matrices fell completely into black hole status, and they're trying to bring us with them. But what is going on at this point? The Eka races could have put up, they can use their Templar to generate buffer fields. They're like almost like a cloak of invisibility. It uses the gold and silver one current, and it creates a bounce field where whatever gets thrown at it, it simply bounces back to where it came from, amplified. Now, the Wisadraks knew that if the Guardian races put up those buffer fields, because what they were going to do is they were going to try it again. They were going to send another pulse from the 10 systems in to Gate 1 and try to get full control of Gate 1 through Tellus. And they were going to try to get control of this through that lineup. The Guardians could have put up the defense fields, but the pulses that would have bounced back not only would have destroyed on contact the Wisa Drac matrices, it would have taken out most of our system as well. So the Guardian races put their own Eka at risk and didn't put up the gates that would bounce the frequency off, because they knew that if they allowed a certain degree of damage to happen to their grids, it would trigger the autopilot on the universal Hitharo, where the whole reset would happen. So they would get damaged, but their grids would get fixed. They might lose some in the process. They're very full aware that at this point, and until they complete their Hitharo and their Hithalon and all of that, they are going to have invasion. Right now, there are plans being made. Part of the whole interest in Iraq is because of its, let's say, easy access to the Gate 10 systems that would allow easy access into Tellus and into literal invasion of the inner Earth gates through Earth. And this has gone on. I mean, they've been fighting, trying to get control of Earth gates to do this. Both sides have tried to do this for eons now. So it's not a new plan. It's just a really boring old plan. But if they hadn't done it, we would have been in for a cataclysm that has never been seen in this matrix before. If they had put their own self-preservation first, the Eoni races. They didn't. They trust, and they don't care if they go back as space dust. They prefer not to. But if it happens that they fall in trying to be of service to the Christos principle, they won't ever lose their love of the Christos principle. Even if they lose their conscious knowledge of it, there's still a feeling that they carry, that even if they're space dust, that feeling will be a part of them. They would prefer to continue with their eternal life and, being able to go in and out of the matrix and manifest and demanifest and all that lovely Christos stuff. But if their matrix, if a lot of them get lost and their shield's fragmented and they fall into black hole status, trying to allow the seed atom to be reset here, the Christos seed atom, it's worth it to them. And they don't worry about themselves because they know they are with Source either way. So it's not a martyrdom to them at all. They know they're with Source, be they space dust or be they whole. Whole's better, but either way, you're still with Source. And as long as you've got that, everything's okay, whatever it is. So they have a very unique perspective on it compared to what most people on Earth have as perspectives right now. But they allowed the pulse to go through, and it's progressively damaging gate 1, and it's working its way up to here. It's aiming for here. Because they have part of gate 1, they're able to use now the gate 10 system and interface at about 10.5. They can't fully do 11 yet because they don't have that many subfrequency bands in their harmonics. But they are sending in several different currents. Now, the currents are coming in the same way that a stans would come in. It's not something that pours down and runs in. It's something that flashes in and brings the current with it. All right, a pattern that flashes on in the shields and brings very specific energy frequencies with it. They have a series of them. The first one is called the pentagonal activation. The second one is the crescent activation. And the third one is the Sephiroth activation, which in our language here, the Sephiroth is the swastika sign. These are not just symbols. They're very specific movements that are commands to give the shields. And they bring in a huge amount of frequency from the Wisadrak parallel matrix. So we not only have the blue sword frequencies coming in, we also have this other load of frequencies coming in from the parallel black hole, and their intentions are to aim them in to the blue sword so they can join with them, and then they can get control, through Tellus, of the blue sword, and literally push and reverse the whole thing. So with the sword, the blue sword's usually like this, right? And usually this is over here, right? What the frequencies that they're sending in through their series of grid activations will do is it literally takes the universal Cathara, breaks it off at 10.5, and flips it very, very quickly. Now again, they are hijacking the beast mechanism. They're hijacking the blue sword, or this is what they're trying to do, and what they call it, once they mix it with their base 8 and base 10 currents. You have a dark blue current coming in on the base 10, and you have the D8 current from their system that they run part of this system on. So you basically end up with kind of a yucky dark green, not emerald, sword that's upside down. It's a sword. The sword is this way. Well, they call that their spear of destiny. And what they hope to do is, after it's flipped this way, it's going to keep going. See, the Wisadraks want to pull everything clockwise. All right? To get to the parallel system, it needs to spin counterclockwise. So they're going to try to use the frequencies of the blue sword and pull the whole thing into their matrix, which will drag us, Phantom, and the parallel Wisadek black hole into their side. So this is their game. It was done out of retaliation, basically for survival. It's either you or me, is what it came down to, because the other guys activated the beast. They weren't going to sit by and just let themselves get consumed. If we have to fight to the death with something, then we will, but at least we'll die on our side. They didn't want to get pulled in. It's like if you're going to get killed, at least you die in your home territory kind of thing. They're very territorial, and that's how they felt about it. What this would do, the Spear of Destiny, once it swung, it would keep going, because it's aiming for that parallel up there, that parallel axis up there. It would keep going. It would hit the point where it interfaces the gate 10, and here's where they want to pierce the rib of Christ and go in to here and attempt to take down the temples with it. Now, they're not going to do that because these temples are going to activate now, and they're going to pull down the three pillars of heaven, as they're called. But this was their plan. Now, part of this is going to run just like part of the blue sword is going to run. All of these currents are going to hit together. They're already starting to accumulate in the grids. They're subharmonics. But the big day, when they hit, and literally the seed atom splits into 3 different coatings. The Christos one, the one going up, and 2 different Metatronic anti-Christos ones. One that has draconian coating that goes with the parallel matrix, and one that has Weesadek, primarily Anunnaki coating, that goes with this side of the black hole system, the Weesadeks. So this is the sword of destiny, or the spear of destiny, and it's the inversion and amplification of the blue sword. This is what pushed us into early universal Hitharo, where we hit the vibration of our original creation point because of these artificial frequencies being brought in here. It sent the oscillation of the grids way too high. Even though alone those currents aren't as strong as the natural currents here, you put them all together and mix them with the currents that are coming through our gates, and you have a mess on your hands. And it also raises the frequency. Now, it doesn't raise the vibration. Because remember, from Kathara, we taught the vibration and oscillation are 2 different things. Higher frequency has higher oscillation, which is energy expending outside, and higher vibration has lower oscillation. Higher vibration is energy being held inside. What's interesting is, all along, we've been helping people to raise their oscillation rates, which is lower their vibration, right? While most of the teachings out there are teaching you to raise your vibration, which means lower your oscillation, which means lower your frequency. Now, if you want to go up the frequency scale, the last thing you want to do is raise your vibration, right? So we're going to have the currents coming in. Our currents that are coming through the natural Eka-gate systems are the ones that will raise your oscillation rate, and that is raising your frequency. The others, both of them, are meant to raise your vibration. So there's this competition in the grids that's going to start happening, and in our bodies as well. It was because of this acceleration that the whole process of the Metatronic seed atom activation was going to go faster. It was going to go at a certain speed. It would have been May 27th when the Metatronic seed atom reached its critical mass where it could fully anchor the blue sword. When you put these other frequencies in that are now spiraling into the beginning currents of the blue sword, it's amplifying the heck out of it, which was bringing everything around faster. It wouldn't bring Hitharo around faster, but what it would bring around faster were the activation of all the Metatronic implants, including the 666 Apollyon seed atom, Metatronic seed atom that stuck to our Christos seed atom inside of our bodies and inside of the planet. This is why we had to go to level 6, evac. This is why it was necessary to do full Hitharo, to break that link completely, because it would consume us before we could even get to the natural Hitharo period if this level 6 wasn't set in motion. Level 6 is set in motion now. We've already had the gold wave infusion. That was in November. And we are now, we've already begun the activation now. We're beginning the activation of the Yan and the Yun codes in the grid. So it's underway. And the work that we're doing now, which is the opening of the Ark of the Covenant and its temple gates, this will give us enough frequency to not be devastated by this frequency war that's taking place. It's really strange, but whatever's inside will outpicture. It will picture outside in the hologram. So the conflicts that we're beginning to see, and they're just starting, you're seeing the conflicts between these 2 sets of frequencies and the beings that are running these frequencies. They're manifesting right through our populations and through our countries and through the stances different people are taking with each other. What's kind of interesting is you can get a clue as to who's playing which agenda just by some of the symbols they use, like in their flags and those kind of things. Now, I'll show you some of the things that go with the Weesadrak grid setup. What do we have next? Yeah, that one. Yeah. This breakdown, this is the axis, the Eka axis right here, right? This is our north-south, and this is parallels north-south, which is our east-west axis. So over on this side of the Eka axis, you have the parallel systems, and over on this side, you have our particum systems. Now, this is the natural particum system right here, okay, running vertically on our grid. This is the natural Particum parallel system running on the horizontal grid. Now, both of these systems developed a phantom which is the partially fallen but not Metatronic, partial black hole in the Lyran Elohim Wars 250 billion years ago. When phantom matrix was created here, it was also created there. Now, here we have our phantom matrix, which is an imprint taken from Mars. And notice we have our gates. They run bottom is 1, top is 12. This one runs bottom is 1, top is 11. Their 12 is still wiped out. All right. Now, the idea was to heal this and bring it back in to our, into full merger with our own union to get its own seed atom reset with ours, because it's energy that belonged with this matrix. Same thing over here. This one up here is the phantom parallel. Right? So there's a phantom Earth, but not just a phantom Earth. This goes all the way up the Stargate chain in the universe and the parallel universe. Now, what you have here are the interfaces of the Wisa deck. Now, remember, when these are all together, you'd see the Wisa deck axis coming through our Cathara this way, and you'd see the phantom coming through this way, right? So when you take them apart, this is what you get when you pull them apart to see what you're looking at. This is the Wisa deck black hole system here. And notice how it runs. Its gate 1 is up here. Its gate 11 is down here. It has a mutated, squashed up little Cathara grid compared to a normal one. And over on this side, you have the Wisa Drac, parallel fallen black hole system. These guys were one system at one point, and they were completely part of a different Akasha AM matrix. And they interfaced with our matrix and plugged into our phantoms through the Arimathea wormhole, through a wormhole system. This was high science stuff. They were playing with wormholes, and they figured out how to use them really, really well. This is why science now, it's like a good time for a restart, because our scientists are just taking the step back to Atlantis right now, where they're starting to play with stuff that they have no idea what they could unleash. And by the time they figured it out, it would be too late. So it's a good time for the seed atom to be reset and for the big stuff to happen, because it kind of like stops a whole lot of horrid evolution that might have taken place otherwise over again, because it happened in Atlantis as well. So what we have here in this diagram are showing the three systems and their relationship to each other. It shows the Eka axis here that goes with the inner Eka gates. What the Wisa decks are trying to do is they've already forged a bond between these two, and they forged a bond between parallel and phantom. What they want to do is pull everything down into this alignment. So they want to spin everything clockwise and drag it down. Now you have the Wisa Drac black hole sitting in the middle of that. If they take these two that are, that go with our matrix, they're going to take them right with us. That's why these guys are a little concerned about the whole thing. And that's why they devised their own retaliation, their own, what they look at as protection from the beast. And they realize that there is no protection from the beast. The only protection from it is the potentiality, as they think, of restraining it and training it yourself. It's not a beast you can destroy, but it's a beast that if you can tame, it will serve you well. That's how they look at it. So they devised a series of implant structures. Now, these are major universal level implant systems that create major stands or flows, just like we have the natural stands that come in when resetting the seed atom. These allow frequency patterns from one system to come up in and activate within another, which allows a temporary blend between those systems. These have been forced in on the Metatronic bond, just like the Wisa decks have done with their systems. That's how the blue sword current was created in the first place. There are a whole set of systems of Metatronic implants all through the universal grids. Now, if the Wisa decks had their way and things worked, they would actually take over the whole beast. They would get under their coding all of the implant systems that the Wisa decks had put in. That's what they're hoping for. They're not going to get that. They know they're not going to get that. And at this point, I don't think any of them know what anybody's going to end up with, but they're all going, oh my God, they're activating the giant, right? You know the story of David and Goliath? Yeah, well, that was another one of those lovely little stories that were twisted, and they meant something else. They never told you that it was a nice giant, and that it was a giant that was here to protect Earth. And they didn't tell you too much about David, whose lineage was coming up from the Leviathan races in an attempted bioregenesis of getting their strands back so they could at least be evac'd out to Terra. So the whole David and Goliath story was about that particular group, which they weren't the draconian ones. They were the Wisadek Anunnaki-based Leviathan races, that line, the Jeshua 9 line, you know, the ones who created the crucifixion story and all that stuff. They were these guys. The story of defeating the giant was they had done things with their implant systems here. In 25,500 BC, they defeated the giant. They stopped those frequencies from running, and they cut off, and they got partial control over the Gate 10 system that Wisadrax had. So these silly stories that we've been told in, like, reading the Bible and all these little fancy stories that are, oh, isn't that nice? The giant fell down and this little David, oh, see, even the little guys can overpower the big guys, you know. What they didn't tell you is that the little guys were the bad guys and the big guys were actually the good guys in that story. But, but the giant only went to sleep, and it's waking up. So, and it's a friendly giant. Now, what we have here they're geomancies. We've talked about geomancies before, the symbol code patterns that activate very specific frequencies in the shields. Here, running between these gate systems up here. It's easier to show this up here in the little one than to drag it all over here. I could do that too, but it's easier to show it here. This is a pentagram, a 5-pointed star, and it's linking very specific gate combinations. You have the 4-4 here, you have the Azure points here. This links into Tellus, and it's intended to push up and link into there if they can take over. They have the 10 at the center. This is the pentagonal activation of the Wisadrax. This was the first in the series of their series of building grid activations that are meant to culminate in creating the Spear of Destiny by harnessing the blue sword when it comes in. The pentagonal activation is the first one. Second one that activates, and this is already activated. I forget the activation dates. I was going to go into that, but I think it was like, this one was the one in November. This is November 24th, and then right after that, this one activated. This is called the Crescent. So this one here, it links through 10.5 the whole series of them. There's a whole series of implants that links all of these grids together. And it doesn't have one over here yet, but it has enough momentum, if these are all activated, to swing. If you picture that as a swinging moon, right? This is known as the red moon, because when it hits red, which is the D1 frequency, that means it's downscaled all the way from its D10 and run down all the frequency spectrum. And that's when it carries a punch. That's when it can swing. And what it's intended to do is swing temporarily that way enough to latch onto this and pull the whole bunch of them back up this way. So that's the sign of the crescent. All right, that's a Wisadrak sign as well. Now, the Wisadeks were not too happy about the fact that they weren't going to win that easy anymore, so of course they had to come up with some other things to counteract these things. They came up with this thing here. It's called the crescent. It's called the Palladian pulse because it's being run out of gate 5, which is Alcyone in Phantom. All right, see, this is where its little handle is, gate 4 and 5 in Phantom. 4 is our solar gate, Phantom solar gate, that's part of our solar gate. 5 is Alcyone, the Palladian gate, or otherwise known as Terra, Earth's density 2 counterpart. Now, this is a grid configuration that runs up this way. Then it has this very interesting and nasty little hammer, the hammer and the sickle. Yeah, this hammer runs right along the grid lines of the Ark of the Covenant, which is the Eka axis, and it connects into the Wisadrak black hole and into our Phantom, and it connects up here, this part of it, the sickle, connects into Arc Gate 2. It's meant to spin. When this thing starts to spin this way and make its backswing, this thing's supposed to spin in and then bring the whole thing back again and whip it all back this way. These guys are playing board games with the universe. I mean, it's like, this is like something you see on a computer, like, asteroids, where you're like, shoot, all right, I'll swing it this way. No, I'll swing it this way and see what happens, But they're doing it on a three-dimensional universal scale, with three-dimensional holograms. So this is what is activating, actually, this weekend. The Palladian pulse is bringing this thing in here. That's this. Now, we know they have the blue sword current, and that runs, in any Cathar grid. It runs down this way and then across between the 6 and 7, with the Azure, connecting at the Azure point. Now, there's another set of grids that I didn't put them up here yet, because this was the last diagram I was doing, so I got to get this one done before we go, because I wanted to show you where these shapes fit in, because it gives you a clue when you're watching the news as to who might be on what side. this little thing. It's actually called the Sephiroth. I think it's Sepharath. That's what it's known as. But here it was called the swastika. There are two kinds, and it's really interesting because the ancient Native American Indians used to use what we would consider a reversed swastika that was reversed compared to the one like facing the different direction than the one that was used by the Hitler regime and those kind of things. They're both part of the same mechanism. They're turnstiles. They run through grids this way. Now let's see. Let's see if I can see it. The shape is this. Down here, you might be able to see it better, like if you look closely on your own, because I have the other ones. I have the cross running through too, and here you see the sickle connected. But on this one, I think you can see it most clear. Gate 10 to gate 8 to gate. Where's I always get dyslexic with these. I think this one goes this way, and this way. Yeah, so it's like 10, 8, 5, 3, and the other side comes down 9, 6, 7, 4. That's the one that's in Phantom. There's another one in our grids, in our planetary grids, and there's one in Parallel and one in Parallel Phantom. After this activates and sends its frequencies in, and then this activates and sends its frequencies in, then these start to activate. Now again, they're centered at the azure points, which is where the seed atoms are. One spins one way, one spins the other, and it pulls us into Phantom. It counterclockwise spins us into Phantom. We're supposed to go counterclockwise anyway, but it takes it into a different coding at a different pulse, and it's meant to force an early blend between us and Phantom. Same thing happening up here. And as these progressively activate, it pulls them all together into here. That's their objective, and that's the apparatus that has already begun to activate in the bodies. This is why we're getting like metatronically infused everywhere these days, because of this thing, because this has accelerated the whole process of bringing in the sword frequencies and all of that. The culmination of all of that would be when the blue sword frequencies are due to come in, which is May 27th at dawn, when the Hitharos starts. These frequencies would blast frequency from here and from the center points of those united grids. It would blast the frequencies in and make it co-combining with the frequencies of the blue sword and begin to push it in to that spin. This would still be active, so they could use it to pull everything right back up into their system. Meanwhile, our bodies are stuck in the middle of this, not to mention our planet and our universe. So it's a very good thing that the temples up here are being activated to send in the three heavenly pillars, or the three pillars of heaven. One would be here, one would be here, and one would be here. It is going to sever a lot of those connections to begin with. It's also going to sever the connection to here. Now here, this is the Stonehenge gate, Arc Gate 2. This is where that mess links in. Remember the other diagram where we showed where Wormwood and Nibiru link through the moon and then into Earth? They link into Earth at Stonehenge, which is Ark of the Covenant, Gate 2, because they had access to the Ark of the Covenant in the early days in Atlantis because they were on bioregenesis and we were trying to help them. And they took advantage of that and they took over part of one of the Ark gates and literally had to be cut off from access to the other. There's a wall and time in there too. So this is the mess we're in the middle of. When you look at the symbols, here's another one. The sextant here, frequencies running down this way. This is the sign very frequently used by, does that look familiar as a core sign to anybody? Masons, Freemasons, yes. That one belongs to the Weesadex. The Weesadex are the ones who are running the UIR, the United Intruder Resistance. All right. So basically, by looking at some of these basic symbols, it's amazing. If you look, most like dictionaries or map books have like a page in the front that just shows you all the flags, like flags of different countries. I was going to get one. We didn't have time to go, get one and like just pick out which flags we needed to show and that kind of stuff. And we didn't want to do like 10 pages of flags and you go find your own flag, right, and figure out what it is. But the colors in the flags represent frequency bands and combinations of frequency bands. If they run horizontal, they represent one thing. Remember the grids that showed which axis created the horizontal and which created the vertical axes and which were diagonal? You can tell a whole bunch of things about who's running which agenda. It'll probably be an amazing surprise to most of them here that are running it because they're just being used as puppets. But this one, I believe, is quite predominantly as Russia, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. There's a bunch of them that use a crescent. They don't use it anymore? Hmm. So that was Soviet Union? Okay. Hmm. Watch what they changed it to. Yeah. Like, look for signs. If you want to try to figure out who's playing what games, look at what their flags are. And look, too, if they've changed things to see. Did somebody else come into power? Like America was being run by Anunnaki all through the 70s, actually through most of the 60s and 70s and part of the 80s. In the 80s, it started to change hands. And in the 90s, it's being run by the Dracs. And that was fully confirmed when they fudged the election and let Bush into office by messing up with the Florida elections, right? I mean, that was a fiasco when Bush got elected. First, they put on the thing that what's his name? I can't remember his name. Gore was elected. They flashed it on. It was there for like once or twice while you're waiting for the results to come through. It looks like Gore is the winner. All of a sudden, that was totally erased, and this whole thing comes up. No, Mr. Bush is the winner. It just so happened to be that I think it's his brother is the governor of Florida. Yeah. So. Yeah. Yeah, and there was a whole fiasco about missing votes and ballot things not working and things getting lost in the mail and you're not even sending them in the mail, right? Yeah, but they were hell-bent on getting him in office. And this was because of what happened on September 12th of 2000 when the war edict went down. There was an agreement made. All right, now, some of the Dracs decided, okay, we'll join this. It was the Andromi creeps. And they're the ones that are directly affiliated with the Wisedex. They put everybody together. They don't like anybody either. They don't like Anunnaki and they don't like Dracs, but they figured, we can use them too. They got them together in the United Intruder Resistance. So there were deals made. And what was going to be an Anunnaki country is now going back to what it was in the 50s, which is a Drac country, the United States. There were little deals made here and there. I don't know what the Anunnaki got in return for that, but it was something they found useful enough to stay in the agreements. So if we just watch just some of these basic symbols, and there's a lot more actually that have to do with like smaller grid configurations, but these are the basic ones, and these are the ones that pushed us in the level 6 evac. It's interesting to observe. I mean, the 5-point